If you were getting bored with winter, I think it's safe to say there will be no more boredom. There are so many things to be doing to get ready for the gardening season, even here in my zone 5B, 6A. And today, because even though it's sunny outside, it's quite chilly, today is about getting some seeds started. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of different kinds of seeds, but we're actually starting with some prep for some seeds, and that starts with what's in this box right here. So these are all Datura seed pods that I collected from my beautiful purple Datura plant that I grew on the deck, but I have had them quarantined in this box in my basement because I've been so afraid that the cats might get into them. So I don't worry a lot about poisonous plants. People often ask me, how do I deal with dogs and poisonous plants in the garden? And if you look at the list of plants that are toxic to dogs, it's huge. Most of the plants that are in everyone's gardens are on that list. So if it's a big concern for you, I don't actually have any advice for you. But I will say that I've not had a problem with that. But there are some plants that sort of go beyond just toxic to really, really dangerous. And Datura is one of those plants. So especially because we got a new puppy in fall, I was really fastidious about picking up all the seeds that had fallen off of the Datura, which was growing in a pot on our deck. I'm hoping this summer and spring he will not be interested in trying anything, but in any case, I have been very, very careful with these seeds. But today, I'm going to try to start the process of growing some of these from seed, see what happens. I've never grown this from seed. I bought this plant last year from a local nursery or a local greenhouse, and it was quite established when I bought it, which was really nice. I don't know, I know nothing about growing these, so it's a first for me. But what I do know is that you're supposed to soak these before you sow them. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm actually even going to wear a glove for this, which I don't do a lot of. I only have one though, so I don't know how much helpful that will be. But these are what the seed pods look like. They're really cool looking seed pods on these things. And when you break them open, so I'm seeing a little bit of mold on these seed pods, probably because they were closed up so tight. But there are a lot of seeds in here. So I'm just going to break off some of these. And I'm going to break them up and put them into a little dish of water. Now, I'm not going to plant too many of these, but I might even pre-sprout them because I don't know how they're going to germinate. The seeds kind of sit in there and look a little bit like a brain. So I'm going to call that good. We're going to have those soak. I'm going to cover these up with a little bit of saran wrap. And just the instructions I read said soak overnight. I kind of doubt I'll do that. I'll probably just soak them to the end of the day, but we'll see. Now, the next thing that's going to require a little bit of advanced work before I can actually plant them are these dahlia seeds. Now, not most dahlia seeds, just these, and I'll tell you why. So these are seeds I collected from my own dahlias this year, and that is, I've never tried it before. It was totally new to me, but I had a lot of fun growing dahlias from seed last year. I had bought the Florette Dahlia Petite Florette Dahlia seeds last year. And I had one that I really liked that I ended up saving the tubers from. But the rest were all really fun to see them come to fruition. And I found a spot to plant this. So one of the reasons I've not planted a lot of dahlias from seed in the past is because most of my dahlias go into my garden. So I don't want a surprise in my garden. I want to know exactly what they're going to look like when I'm planting them in the garden. So I plant from tubers or cuttings so we know exactly what they're going to look like. With seeds, you don't know what they're going to look like. But last year I was able to plant some of those plants in a skinny bed on the edge of the vegetable garden, and it worked pretty well. I need to amend the soil a little bit, but it worked pretty well. And it was really fun to see what was going to pop up. So I kind of got into it. I totally understand how people get into breeding plants and especially dahlias, because I can see how fun it is to see what you can make and what you can create. So I didn't save a ton of seeds, but I did save some. But I mixed them all up. I have no idea what the parents of, I knew then what the parents were, but I mixed all the seeds I saved together in one little pack here. But I have since learned that dahlia seeds are not particularly reliable when it comes to being a good seed. So I have since learned that dahlias are not particularly reliable from seed because uh, the seeds have to be good. And there's a way you can kind of check, but basically you're looking for kind of a firm center on them without like a big flat part on it. What I'm going to do with some of these seeds is I'm actually just going to pre-sprout them, which is going to be the easy way to tell me, honestly, if any of the seeds I saved are any good and to keep me from starting seeds that aren't good. Because again, I don't know exactly what I'm doing with collecting my own seed. This is exactly what I do for my sweet peas. If you've ever seen my sweet pea videos, I really like pre-sprouting my sweet peas. It works like a charm for me and I kind of swear by it. I'm going to do the exact same thing here. It's just a damp paper towel and I'm putting it on a plate and I'm going to sprinkle some seeds in there. You can do this, by the way, for any seed. You can pre-sprout any seed. And sometimes it's a good way to just do a viability test if you've got some old seeds to see if they're even worth starting anymore. But I think this is a good test for me to see whether I was collecting seed at the right time, where we're at on how I did on my seed collection job. And then I'm just going to close that up so those stay in a nice damp area. And I will cover this up with plastic wrap as well. Then those are just going to sit on the counter. I'll just keep an eye on them and see what sprouts out of this. This will be a little bit of an experiment. So I do have some dahlia seeds to plant that I have faith in because these are from professionals who obviously know what they're doing. And these are Black Forest Ruby. It's an All-America Selection winner. Now, I have actually prepped a bunch of stuff. First of all, note my cover for my kitchen counter. This is, I actually think this is called like an indoor potting mat or something. This is from Hoselink. It's inexpensive. It just folds up at the counter. It's basically like a mini foldable tarp, which is probably a good idea because usually I end up with soil all over my kitchen. So I've been using this for a lot of my seed starting stuff just to keep the mess collected in one spot. I have gone through and I made up a bunch of trays for myself for this with sifted seed starting mix, which you've seen me do this before. I will link to a video where I talk a little bit about this. And then I have soaked these so that this is already plenty moist, which is great. So I mentioned this before, but this year I am sowing even more seeds than I have in the past using this broadcast sowing method, just using these little trays. Somebody in my last video recommended mushroom containers are a really good size and depth for this. So that would be a really good one. These are little mini seed starting trays I got from a Greenhouse Mega Store. But obviously, as long as you can find something that's got a little bit of depth, I don't like them too shallow. There's a whole bunch of things you can use to serve this purpose. So with this broadcast sowing method, I just sow multiple seeds in here. And then I plan on, once it's time, pricking them out and putting them into cells. And that way I know that I will fill a tray or have every cell filled that I want to fill, and I won't end up with like half a tray of stuff that never germinated, which just takes up a ton of room. And the more seeds I start, the less room there is under grow lights for me. And so I really have to be conscientious about how much space I'm using. And dahlia seeds should be planted, they say, about a 1/4 inch deep. So with bigger seeds like this, especially, I do try to space these out a little bit. Just makes it easier for pricking out. Plus, it gives them a little bit more room to grow for the little bit that they will be in this small container. I think that is plenty. I should stop there. Now I'm going to put a little bit more soil on the top. This is, again, and as always, I'm going to put vermiculite on top. I put vermiculite on top of all of my seedlings. I just feel it works well for me. And I did not bring my little tamper up, but I do like to tamp things a little bit. Then I give everything a really good misting on top, which keeps those seeds from washing away or all that soil from washing out of there. So I thought I'd just pause before I start other seeds to just give you a quick shot of, I've talked about this before. This is my seed starting spreadsheet. And honestly, this is the only thing that keeps me organized. And I don't have it up as updated as it should be. I don't necessarily have every single thing that I'm going to grow on there because sometimes I'm just going through my seed stash and kind of throwing things in along the way. But this is absolutely key for me. So first of all, I will just tell you that I have the wrong frost-free date on there. I'm using one from a few years ago, which used to be May 10th, but now it's May 5th, and that's the 90% frost-free date. 90% of the time there has not been frost after that, based on some amount of years of average. Honestly, in the past several years, we have not had a frost even close to that date, but you just know the second that you bet against that is going to be the year that it happens and you're going to be in trouble. Everything on this spreadsheet is based on my frost-free date. So the key column is the one that I use in yellow, which is how many weeks before frost I'm supposed to plant it. Then the column before that is essentially what date does that put me at? And so because I have technically a frost-free date that's 5 days late on here, I just kind of make up for it in my head. It's all a rounding error anyways. So anyways, I have name of the plant, the date that I started inside, and obviously this is usually a range. A lot of seeds will say start them 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. So that is obviously a 2-week range. Then I have information on when they should be transplanted or started outside, because sometimes seeds should be direct sown. Usually I try to fill in how long it takes them to germinate, just so I can keep an eye on it, because if something's taking a really long time, I need to know, is this just something that takes a long time to germinate, or do we have a problem here? Any notes I need to know about germination, things like, do you need to soak things ahead of time? Do they need light? Do they need darkness? And then I have another column for notes as well. So this is, I keep this from year to year and I try to update it. I'm not super great about updating, but it is very helpful to me to see at a glance where I'm at with things. So right now I'm at the 10 to 12 weeks before my last frost-free date. 10, I guess I'm at 10. So I'm taking a look at what I should be starting now. And the next thing I'm going to start is actually some petunias, which I have never grown from seed before, at least not to my knowledge. This is my new addition this year to my seed starting setup. So I have used the plastic photo organizer suitcase type things forever, and I love those. But I organize things by type of seed in there. And what I do now is I pull them out and try to organize them into these little pockets, which is from a company called a small business called Love Your Seeds. She hand sews these, I think. They're lovely. Anyway, so then I put what I'm going to plant, like as I'm planning, I'll pull them out and stick them in here. So I know like all of these seeds are what I want to be planting this weekend. Shake Raspberry Petunia is another All America Selections winner. So petunias are super tiny little seeds. They're like Nicotiana. I don't know if you can even see them here. They're so tiny. They're like little specks of dust. I'm just going to do my best to sprinkle these lightly on the soil. There's not much I can do about it, honestly. You can, if you really want to be fastidious, you can do the thing where you pick them up with a wet toothpick. I'm not going to mess around with that today. And these need light to germinate, but I still put a thin layer of vermiculite on top, which just helps keep moisture there. Next, I'm going to do some foxglove seeds. Now, I wasn't planning on planting these particular foxglove because I ordered a new type of foxglove, which are shorter growing, and much like the first one I'm going to plant here, which is an F1 hybrid called Dalmatian Peach. If you start them early enough, they will bloom the first year. Foxgloves are actually typically biennials, but some of the new hybrids will flower the same. So I ordered some seeds from Gelito Seeds, which is an amazing seed company in the Netherlands, Germany maybe. They have incredible seeds. However, it was the first time I ordered from them, and I underestimated the time it takes them to fulfill seed orders. And I was told that's especially true if you order, in winter. So I ordered those a month and a half ago, and they're not here yet. And in there was this new kind of foxglove seed. So I don't know when they're going to come. I figured I better start some. And I'm actually going to try real hard not to plant too many of these. So I'm going to double up on the trays. So the first one I planted there was Dalmatian Peach, which is a favorite of mine, kind of probably the one I've grown the most. This one is actually Digitalis uh, ferruginea, which is rusty foxglove. And this is a true biennial. And I have some of it growing out in the garden by the driveway, and I love it. But I always like to plant some more plants so that I can make sure I have it. I have two types of Digitalis parviflora. I have one called chocolate and one called milk chocolate. And I don't honestly know if I've ever gotten any of these to grow because I don't know. I couldn't tell you what they look like off the top of my head. And because I don't know that I've seen them growing in my garden. But I am going to plant. I'm going to pick chocolate. I'm guessing they're close enough in variety that I can just stick with one of these. Very, very tiny seeds in these. Some of these foxgloves tend to have smaller, less showy flowers than some of the ones that we often grow. But they work really well in a garden setting, I think, especially with when they're surrounded by sort of other kind of more naturalistic plants. They fit better into a garden like that, I think. And then I'm going to grow Digitalis obscura. Never even opened this packet. I have not done a lot of seed buying this year. I've really gone out of my way to try not to because I have too many seeds. And for the most part, I'm just going to try to live with what I have. There's a few things that I always have to grow, so those I will always buy seeds for. But for the most part, I've not done a ton of seed buying this year. All right, that is Digitalis obscura. We're going to stop there. Next one is very simple. Again, this is another surface sower. And this is Sweet Alyssum. This one's called Crystal Clear Lavender Shades. And these are older seeds that are coated. But in my experience, these are usually fine. Now, Alyssum is one of those plants that I don't mind growing a bunch of because I feel like I can always tuck it in somewhere. It's more shade tolerant than a lot of plants are. So it's nice to fill in areas where other things might not work. I often grow this at the base of the Belgian fence in the vegetable garden because it seems to work quite well back there. It's a little shady in that bottom area because the raised beds kind of shade it a bit. So I don't mind growing a bunch of these. The other thing with these is that since they are quite a bit more cold tolerant than a lot of other things, they can really get moved. You know, you can move these on faster and essentially out of your house faster than some other things you're growing. Now here's something that I've not grown before, but Renee's Seeds sent out some packets of seeds. It must have been last fall perhaps. And I thought, well, this might be kind of fun because, I like to try new things. So this is Zinger hibiscus, which you're meant to grow for the calyxes for herbal tea. It says, use flower calyxes for a delicious ruby-colored herbal tea packed with antioxidants. Obviously, they're going to be pretty as well. Here's what it says on the back. This special herbal tea plant has attractive lobe leaves and creamy flowers. Once the pretty blossoms are spent, just pick and air dry the teardrop-shaped flower calyxes to make a delicious ruby-colored tea with a floral berry aroma and well-balanced cranberry-like flavor. Antioxidant-packed hibiscus tea is delicious on its own, either steaming, hot, or iced, or add a touch of lemon, a little honey, or your favorite fruit juice. Also called Jamaican tea or roselle. This is new to me, but this is a 1/2 inch deep and 1 inch apart. And then it says when seedlings are 2 inches tall, transplant them into their own 4-inch pots. So I don't need a ton of these, obviously. And they're nice big seeds on here, which is handy. What I like to do when I have to plant seeds a little deep is I actually like to lay them on the soil surface first and then come back and push them in because sometimes I lose track of where I put one otherwise. So these like to grow on quite warm, so these will definitely go on the heat mat. And actually, most of what I'm doing here today will go on the heat mat, other than the foxgloves, which want to be at about 60 to 65 degrees. So those will not go on the heat mat. And then the last thing I'm going to start for today is peppers. Peppers are the first vegetable I start. They definitely take a while to get going. And last year I started them at this same time, and I had my best pepper crop ever. I think especially here where we have shorter seasons and temperatures aren't as hot as they are other places, a jump on the season really helps with these. So I'm going to plant my peppers. I had way too many peppers last year, and actually I filled up 2 4-cell packs here, which is still a lot of peppers. But it's nice to have a few to give away and things. So these are the varieties that I'm growing, most of which actually all of these are All America Selection winners. I didn't even realize that, and most of these are new to me. So first I have San Joaquin, Pick and Pop Yellow, which is a sweet pepper, Dragonfly, which is another sweet pepper, Quickfire Chili Pepper, Red Impact Sweet Pepper, and then a favorite that I grow every year is Potapino, which is a jalapeno that is obviously sort of a smaller growing one, so it's meant for containers. You can certainly grow them in containers. I just grow them in my raised beds like any other ones, but I like that it's a little bit of a smaller plant, so I don't have to worry as much about staking it like I do with some peppers. So I'm definitely going to grow probably 3 Potapinos because they're sort of a favorite for me. I'm using my black tags for these, which I write on with like a paint marker because I prefer black tags out in the garden. So the white ones usually don't make it out into the garden. They're just kind of for growing because the whites are just so obvious in the garden. So I like to, it's an aesthetic thing. It makes no difference. So I will let those seedlings come up, and then I'll wait a little bit to see which seedling looks better, and then I will thin out one of them so that there is only one in that cell. Then I will grow them out in these cells before planting them up into 4-inch pots. Once I start seeing roots coming out of the bottom of this, that's when I'll plant those into 4-inch pots. All right, there we go. Those are the first actual cells that I've planted this year. Everything else has been broadcast sown. One of the problems with broadcast sowing is that you end up sowing way too many, and then, I mean, you've got trays and trays and trays of the same thing. And I do like to plant a large quantity of some things, but you have to be realistic about what's actually going to make it into the ground. And that is something that is a personal problem that I'm working on. So according to my little seed starting sheet here, which again doesn't have absolutely everything that I'm going to plant on it, but I'm pretty much done planting now for 2 weeks. There was a big load now, and then in 2 weeks is when the really big load comes. And one last thing on how I start my seeds. Everybody has a system that works well for them. Some people like going directly into very small plug trays and then planting up the plugs. Some people like soil blocking. I love soil blocks, by the way. I think they make amazing seedlings. I don't do it because it takes so much extra time and a lot of extra space at this stage. So that's sort of why I got away from doing it. But I think you grow really good plants using a soil blocking method. As you know, I'm going to try out the paper pots. I will be transplanting some things into those soon. Just use a system that works for you. Actually, I settled on this because I've been trying things out for so many years. So keep trying different ways to start your seeds and see which one works best for you. And not all methods will work good for all types of seed, but this is one of the things that you figure out as you go along. I will keep you up to date on everything that's happening with all of what we did here today. So stay tuned for that. And I hope you're having a great day in your garden. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.